From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 204 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that is somewhere in the middle. For those of you who are new to this podcast, hello and welcome. We're glad to see you. Brian Hartline, go ahead and sit down, kick up your feet and relax and give this one a good listen. You know why? Because we go over all sorts of different Mod Podge kind of topic-y kind of thing. And that's a lot of what we do. And we just hope that you can feel at home and part of the conversation. And we have ways that you can do that outside of listening to the podcast. Follow the link tree below for those kinds of things. This episode, we're talking about a plant-based restaurant. Was it surprising or was it disappointing? We'll find that out. We talk a lot about what we're streaming on the back end. And in between, we're getting creepy with Brian Hartline, getting freaky with the pizza place, and we're getting sneaky with Charcuterie. Nope, that read differently. There's a restaurant getting cheeky with Charcuterie. I don't know. We'll figure out a title for this thing later. In the meantime, listen to some music, and then we're going to start talking again. Bye.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
I am so excited to catch up. I feel like there's been a lot of goings on, and I just want to get right into it because we have a lot of updates, a lot of fun stories. I'll start by mentioning that I am traveling this week. I'm currently on the road. I am or do you say you're in an island or on an island? I'm in Manhattan, on the island of Manhattan. And I am at World Trade Center. So this is, if you're on YouTube, that is Freedom Tower right there. It took the name of one World Trade Center. So that's
Very
where
cool.
I am. I have a gig tomorrow. My colleagues and I had dinner tonight. One of my colleagues, Lisa, does a great job finding restaurants in whatever city we're in. But tonight she tells my colleague Zach and I that she's found a plant-based restaurant for us to go to.
Okay.
Now, immediately upon hearing this, I make some snap judgments.
Right.
Because I don't know how to say this. I feel like the low lows of plant-based and the high highs of plant-based are very far apart. Or maybe what I mean is they're very close together. I don't know what I mean.
I think that's what you're trying to say is they're close together.
What I'm trying to say is they're close together. And I feel like it could be very hit and miss. It's a volatile, the possibility is volatile.
Okay, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know words. This is my first podcasting. So she goes, no, you guys, this is a very fancy place. It's a Jean-Georges restaurant. And I go, oh.
Sounds impressive.
Green Lantern.
Jean-Georges.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That sounds fancy. And I won't go into all the details. The people watching was very interesting. But I will say I can admit when I'm wrong. And I was very pleasantly surprised. The food looked beautiful. The range of flavor was surprising. I enjoyed everything. 2 or 3 dishes of the 7 she ordered. We just did order a bunch of stuff and we're all going to share. Everything was very good. 2 or 3 were really, really good. I never got full. I'm still hungry. But I was pleasantly surprised and I enjoy trying new things.
Sounds wonderful.
I have a question, a thought on that, and a question related to your travel.
The thought is it's almost more interesting talking to people now who've been vegan or vegetarian longer than like the last 20 years because they remember what it was like when the only thing they could get anywhere was a salad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to like, so what did you do? And to come up with different, I used to work with somebody like that. So, like, what would you do at a wedding when it was like chicken or steak? And you had like, you just like, I would eat the one vegetable side. Or like, what would you do on a plane? Or what would you do, because the grocery stores didn't have many options. So I find it fascinating now, even mid-sized cities have enough vegan and vegetarian options that there's plenty of food options. People know how to cook vegan and vegetarian menus and make it taste pretty good. An Impossible Burger can have vegan cheese on it and fool most people. I think we're at a pretty good space there. So I'm not surprised that you enjoyed it. I'm a little surprised you would stick your nose up at it up front, but I'm
Really?
not surprised you enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. You're so well traveled. I would think you'd be like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's try something new.
I guess if she said we're going to a place that has plant-based options,
Yeah.
I'd be way more excited to go. But when I learned that this is plant-based only, Dillon, do you mind pulling up the letters ABCV? That's the name of the restaurant, ABCV.
No, I don't mind.
Go to their website, and it's Jean George, Jean hyphen George with an S.
Yeah, Green Lantern.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear that you're surprised by that. That I stuck my
am.
And it wasn't like I need my meat. It was just like and it wasn't even like I'm not sure this food is going to be good. It was, I don't know that I trust my palate enough to appreciate you wanting to go to this place, Lisa. But yes, very good. Kendall, if someone said to you, we're going to a plant-based restaurant, how
There
would you
was,
see it? Yeah.
I wouldn't have any of the thoughts of like, maybe my palate isn't refined enough for this. That's not to say that I think my palate is refined. That just wouldn't come to my mind. I can tell you this. There was a time when I would have turned my nose up at it and started making hippie jokes.
Yeah.
Today, I will still make the hippie jokes, but I won't turn my nose up at it either. I would kind of like how you ended up. Like, I'd be excited to try it. In part because there are things that, like, I mean, I don't know that I've ever had a truly vegan meal in my entire life, but there are times that I've ordered like a vegetarian option of something just because I like it. Like eggplant parmesan, I like, and I have ordered in restaurants before. And I've had people make fun of me before for ordering something like that because I'm getting the quote unquote vegetarian option. But I mean, I like eggplant parmesan, and that's coming from somebody who like has grown eggplant in a garden and cannot for the life of him figure out a way to make it taste good. But you get it in a restaurant and somehow they do something to it. And the answer is they had a whole bunch of fat and whatnot. But yeah, that's how I would be today versus how I once would have been.
I will say I could have broken 3/4 of the people there like a twig. And that's why they look like that, because they eat like that. And yeah. So anyway, thought you guys would find that interesting. How you guys doing?
Good. My question, how many notes did you write to neighbors at the hotel about you recording the podcast tonight?
0. And I actually had a thought before I started recording. I'm just going to be as loud as I want. There's a story I'm going to tell later that might require just a little bit of volume. And if someone comes banging on this door, I'm going to say, and that's why you write notes ahead of time.
Kory's rooting for the redemption moment. In other words, is what we're
good enough about me. How are you guys?
We're going to be chock full of redemption moments tonight. I am so excited. Have I mentioned on the podcast about finally getting a grill?
I'm not sure that you've
I don't
mentioned it on
think
the
so.
podcast before, but
Okay,
As Kendall often says, even if you have, talk about it again, man.
that's
Yeah.
true. So long story short, got an incredibly good deal on a Blackstone grill. All kinds of options out there, but a lot of people that I know and trust very well with cooking meat have said how much they enjoy a Blackstone and wouldn't go back to a traditional grill at this point, which is enough for me as an adult with my first real home to get my own first real grill and just go straight to a Blackstone, which having that set up, cleaned and seasoned, already like it was a couple like one-ups to like being a guy, right? So like like I leveled up. I leveled up a little bit. And then I had to pick what we were going to cook on it first. And so we went to the store and I was looking through the different meats and I found a very nice, I assume this has been done for a long time, but I've never cooked it before. I found ground prime rib burger patties. Mm-hmm. And I got some souped up deluxe, quote, deluxe white American cheese and some brioche buns. And we cooked those up with some zucchini and squash. And it was fantastic. And just to like level up a few extra points, we were out on the car covered patio. The weather was beautiful. I had my speakers out there hooked up on the planter hooks, but actually playing 60s, 70s, and 80s hit radio on Pandora. I had the iPad sitting out on the table where I was sitting in between checking the grill, and I was streaming international soccer, watching sports, grilling, listening to music. And then my daughter came out and was watching a little bit of soccer with me on the iPad. I was trying to explain soccer. And she said, "Daddy, we need a grilling snack." And I thought, you're absolutely right. How did I not think of this? Normally you just eat right off the grill, but it wasn't ready yet. And so we did. We went and got some grill snacks while we watched sports and listened to music and grilled and knocked it out of the park on the prime rib burgers and the squash. It was delicious. It was so good. So very
Stop
good.
Talking. You're making me hungry.
Kory
All I had was a bunch of vegetables.
Yeah,
Kory
has plants inside of him right now.
And I made sure to toast. I made sure to toast the bun so it wouldn't get soggy. And I almost pulled out, but I didn't because we already had so much food. I had found at Costco baked beans with beef brisket already in the baked beans.
Oh, I saw those today. Yeah.
And I almost pulled those out to heat some of those up. And I thought, no, I'm going to save those for another grilling day because we've got enough. I'm going to just enjoy the vegetables with the burger patties, and that'll be fine. But man, I couldn't have felt more dadly / manly out there with that combination of things. Some nice Bundesliga soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. And it was a lot of fun. She even picked a team right away and was cheering for them as we were watching grilling. It was great.
Oh, good. So what's the next, what do you envision yourself cooking if you could master the Blackstone? What would you make ideally? Have you looked into many recipes and things and thought, you know what, that's what I aspire to?
I won't say I've looked at a lot of recipes. I really feel like if I can get really good at just hibachi type meals, that's something my family find a good yum sauce that we can have at home. That's something that my family and I would eat a lot. Just rice, veggies, and then go get like steak and shrimp and stuff like that. We would eat that a lot. So I think that's it. Although my dad to this day says breakfast foods are his favorite things to cook on his Blackstone.
Yeah.
Quesadillas and hash browns and eggs and bacon. And
I was going to say, when I think of a flat top griddle, breakfast is what I think of.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll be swayed by breakfast because I know the girls love pancakes. So if I can cook meats and hash browns while I'm making them pancakes, they'd be all over it. And I'm certainly going to enjoy meats and potatoes. So
I'm going to get a New York slice after this. That's it.
You better DoorDash for $90.
I'm so hungry.
I got to give you.
I'm going to Postmates right now.
So I don't even own a Blackstone or a flat top, and I probably never will. Not because I don't want one, just because, cost, and there's other things I'd rather spend money on usually. But I so wish I had one. And breakfast is what I think of, like I said. And the one thing that I've always wanted to make, and if I ever get my hands on, I'm going to make it, is a hash brown omelet. Apparently, they're like popular at Waffle House, and I've watched videos. I watch a lot of cooking videos, and so like I've learned some things about what dudes are doing with black stones, and I just watch them thinking, oh, maybe someday. And the hash brown omelet situation is something that I so badly want to make.
I'm gonna Google it now.
So, I mean, do you know how to make hash browns? Like the basic steps of hash browns? Like you got to like soak them, get the starch out, and you got to do all that stuff, wring them out, dry them. So once you have the potatoes ready, like you start by spreading those up and letting them cook for a little while to get brown. And then you can flip them if you want to get the other side browning. And then you scramble up some egg and pour egg just all over the top. And you pre-shape this into a rectangle. And so now and then you fill it and you make a basic omelet then from there. But the outside of your omelet is like this crunchy, eggy thing shell with the stuff inside. And I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should get good at that, Dillon, and then we'll come over for breakfast.
I know. Practice that and then invite us over some morning.
I'll be watching videos later, just so you know.
Good.
I'm excited for you to keep experimenting. And what a beautiful picture of like home ownership in the spring, almost summer here in Ohio. I mean, that sounds amazing.
Pissed off at his lawn in the spring and
yeah, for how cold of a spring we've had, it was nice to have a nice day for cooking on the grill. I also have one other question. I'm going to share my screen. I was reading a post. Somebody was mad that they got this brewery charcuterie board.
They were mad.
This is what showed up. And at first I was like, yeah, I'm mad. And then I kept staring at the picture and I went, I don't know if I am mad. So the question is, would you be mad? Let's say this didn't show up and it wasn't like $25. I don't know how much it was. Let's say it was $8 to $10, which is kind of reasonable-ish for an appetizer around here. Would you be mad if this showed up?
Not at all. It probably depends on the place. Like if I'm in a relatively nice restaurant and they have something on the menu called a charcuterie board, and then like who doesn't read the description, especially on a charcuterie board, because you want to find out what's on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can think of maybe a couple of contexts where I'd be confused. I don't think I'd ever be mad because it looks like there's summer sausage on there, which I love. Cheese cubes, fine. I mean, looks like cheddar ruffles, fantastic, and pickles. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, I that's why initially my brain went, oh, this is an easy charcuterie board because it's basically some kind of barbecue or cheddar ruffles with cheese cubes, summer sausage, some pickles, and some mustard thrown on top. And then I thought, yeah, but I would happily eat, and that's like a small baking sheet. Like I would happily eat that at home. I wouldn't be upset at all. Is it because? And then I started to wonder why they're mad. Maybe they paid too much. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's because they thought this is something I could easily make at home. But then even if you do the math on throwing it together at home, if you go buy all that stuff, you're still in $8 or $10 just to buy the ingredients, to buy chips and cheese and. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The more I looked at it, the more I thought I'd smash that. Yeah,
would smash. They're mad. They're mad either because they didn't read the description and they expected a charcuterie board, like Kendall said, or they don't want their juicy pickles touching their chips. They have a texture thing, or they're sharing with friends and they don't know which things to grab with their fingers and which things to poke with some toothpicks. Like people don't always just grab summer sausage by their hand. Maybe, I don't know. I'm really giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Kind of people who are grabbing any type of summer sausage or using their hands.
Now, to me, if you're not watching this episode on YouTube and you're listening, this feels like a very Midwestern version of a quote charcuterie board. And so I don't know. The other thing I can think of is
just to give us a little bit more props than that. We wouldn't actually call this a charcuterie board, even in the Midwest.
We wouldn't.
I could see it on a menu in the Midwest called the Midwest charcuterie board, and it would totally be a tongue-in-cheek joke.
What would we call this? We would call this the game day snack plate.
It'd be like hillbilly nachos or something like that. You know,
Maybe.
it's mountaintop meat and chips or something.
Wisconsin, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that would actually be served here, but kind of jokingly. And so the only thing I can think of is either somebody from here went to a coast and prepared this at a restaurant and shouldn't have, or somebody from a coast came to the middle and ordered this and got mad when we'd be like, dude, that's not really. We don't actually
telling me you guys don't eat cheese and chips.
We don't actually
over there in California.
We don't actually think this is a charcuterie board. This is like a game day snack bowl, basically. This is the equivalent of Chex Mix, but I'm at a bar and have actual ingredients for things.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna chuck them in a pan.
Somebody that would normally go to ABCV was disturbed by this.
Yeah.
And listen, I now know what it feels like to feel out of my depth and like I'm at a place that I don't feel comfortable. I don't know what to do. I get it.
See, and right now, Kory is craving this as a Midwesterner.
Exactly. Yeah. And looking at the picture, the fact that it's served on parchment paper, which is on like a quarter baking sheet.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's sitting on a wet picnic table, like tells me that this is the kind of place where like you should expect this kind of food.
Yeah. This is right. They ordered this appetizer and it's like a food truck and they're about to have 4 burgers to go that come out right behind this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anyways, I thought it was funny because at first my brain went, yeah, that's not charcuterie. And then the more I thought about it, the less mad I got and the more hungry I got. So I thought it was interesting. I had to have you guys weigh in.
Yeah.
Speaking of weighing in, Dillon, keep your computer share pulled up because I need you to do an image search on Outshine Fruit Bar Tajin, Tajin. So you guys know I've shared on this podcast before. I'm obsessed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm obsessed with the Outshine fruit bars. I used to enjoy a bowl of ice cream before bed. Now I help myself to 1 or 2 Outshine fruit bars. They're made with real fruit. There's not a bunch of sugar and like artificial stuff added. They're so good. Well, Sherry does the Kroger click list, and I think a box of the Outshine mango with tahini got replaced because they didn't have enough of the regular mango. This is not made for somebody from the Midwest. I don't know. I don't know who. Click on that. I don't know who these are made for, but it is not someone. Do you guys know what tahini is?
No, but it looks like it's a chilied mango, right? Or something like that.
I actually have used it before. I've mixed it into when I'm cooking for like taco night. I'll mix tahini into like beans.
It's the chili lime dry seasoning.
Yep.
I have tried it before and I can't stand it. Not because of heat, but because I think it's disgusting.
It's meant to go on mostly savory and apparently sometimes sweet dishes. If you're not on YouTube, this is a bright yellow, beautiful mango fruit bar painted with chili and lime powder.
Yeah.
It is so disturbing. Listen, we were at a graduation party a year or 2 ago where they had like a sherbet that had chili. It was like a red chili in the mango sherbet. And I get that this is a thing, but my tongue didn't know how to make sense of the cacophony of flavors that had approached it. It is so not for me.
Yeah.
I'm curious,
It's like-
who are is this a Hispanic thing that they like that
think
hot,
so.
spicy, sweet?
Yeah.
It ain't us.
It's not, well, yeah.
Might
I mean,
be.
I like spicy sweet stuff, but there's it's like the tang on tahine is so obtrusive
Yeah.
to me. So like when you were talking about your tongue doesn't know how to deal with it, like the word that jumped into my mind was ouch, because like that's what my tongue says when tahine touches it. Not because of the spicy thing. I can deal with spicy food.
Yeah. Same.
But the way the acidity hits my tongue with that stuff is just so off-putting. It makes my tongue want to say ouch.
Okay, well, spring sports have calmed down, which means we're going to get back in the studio to the record. I have a whole box of these that
Let's do it.
that I'm going to bring in for you guys to
Let's
try.
do it.
I need you to confirm that this is not made for our Midwestern palate.
Yeah.
Happy to try it. I've got some goodies too.
Me too.
It's gonna be fun.
too.
Kendall, you have something on the shared note. Beef, is that the show or is that another?
That's the show. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe
All right.
we're not talking about streaming right now, but it is the show since you brought it up, and I watched through what's available so far with beef, and to Kory's recommendation, I thought it was amazing.
Yes.
It hit. I love dark humor. I love laughing in situations where everything else is telling you this isn't a time to laugh. And beef does that to you a lot. Like we're talking about murder and arson and like the destruction of lifelong dreams, and yet they still have you chuckling at what's going on. I appreciate how they put that together. Yeah, it has my full endorsement.
Yay! I was talking to Lisa, who recommended ABCV, and I don't want to get into. There's a moment where the two main characters share a beautiful moment, and it had me crying. It's towards the end of the season, and it's just so well. It's just so well done. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't watched Beef, go watch Beef. So Kendall, the criminal, is it his cousin, the main character's cousin, who's the criminal?
Like the career criminal that he gets.
Yeah, or like his uncle.
You know what? That's not clear to me. If
Okay,
there's a
anyway,
family relation,
it's his relative. Okay, the two cronies that he has. One is Andrew Santino, the ginger guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's who I'm going to meet in June. The other character was supposed to be played by Bobby Lee, because his name's Bobby.
Yeah,
He's Korean, I'm pretty sure. He has a beanie on.
yeah. They're
That was
talking about the chubby dude.
It was written for Bobby Lee, but Bobby
Okay.
was in rehab at the time.
Oh
So
man,
that was supposed
oh
to be,
dude.
that was supposed to be him.
Oh, that would have been. I mean, that character was still funny, but
Yeah, would have been
probably
way
not
better.
Bobby Lee funny. Yeah.
Would have been way better as Bobby Lee. All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear some words from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media, and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Dalton.
And I'm Sam.
Sam and I love to talk, and when we do, we talk big.
Of course, you're talking about the Big Ten.
You said it. We were formerly Big 10+4, but we knew a change was needed.
Yep, with the conference growing to 16 teams in just over a year, we decided to make our name something that reflects what our show is about while allowing the conference to keep growing.
We are proud to announce our new name going forward is Big Talk. Catch Big Talk each week, just as before, on the ASAP network.
And later that day on Odd Pods Media, we bring you college sports with a Big Ten flavor.
Big Talk, college sports with Midwest perspective.
Blue collar and blue blood.
Dillon, do you mind sharing a brief overview of what happened to you at the Hilton Hotel Bar in Tampa? Just a super quick version for those who haven't heard episode 203.
Yeah.
Happy to. A colleague and I are at a restaurant right beside our hotel, and because there is an event being hosted for a new college football bowl game at our hotel called the ReliaQuest Bowl, him and I happened to get chatting about college football. Midway through our meal, I look across the bar and notice that Brian Hartline, the Ohio State offensive coordinator, is sitting across the bar from us in Tampa. And he gets up and starts heading one direction that I know is the only direction you can go is that way for the restroom. And so I want to say, hey. And so as he's walking, I go, hey, Brian. And he looks and he kind of waves and says, hey, back, and then disappears towards the restroom. Well, I might have scared the shit out of Brian Hartline because he never returned from the trip to the bathroom, or at least that I saw. Maybe he dipped out the front door. Maybe he changed spots in the restaurant or something. I wanted to go over and explain, hey, Brian, sorry if I startled you. I went to college at Ohio State around the same time you did. We would have been on campus at the same time. Just a big fan of Ohio State football and of yours. Good seeing you. Hopefully you're having fun. He was either there for the bowl game stuff or more likely there recruiting, but that's the gist of it. So I frightened Brian Hartline without the ability to explain myself. More than likely frightened him. I don't know. That's how I read the situation.
Former Ohio
Or at least
State
gave
player.
him the, I'm not going back out there.
Yeah. Yeah. This could have been a slipping out the bathroom window kind of situation. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Former Ohio State player, former NFL player, was on the roster of a few different NFL teams. Okay. So Sunday, I am leaving my home for the airport to come here to New York City. I typically park in the garage, and I typically like to go to a certain level more so that I just remember where I park each time. So as I'm going up the spirally thing with the car and then entering the level I normally go on, I see a guy pulling a suitcase out of a nicer SUV and think to myself, that looks a lot like Brian Hartline. But now I'm like, that can't be Brian Hartline. Dillon just told a story. That's like that thing where you drive a certain make and model of car and you just now see that car out on the highway all the time.
Right. Yeah. Now
can't-
everybody looks like Brian Hartline.
Not everybody. It can't be him. So I dismiss the thought, but go, he sure did look a lot like him. And then I park my car where I normally like to park it. But I also walk a little fast in the off chance that as I'm getting up to security, if it was Brian Hartline, I need to know. So I'm going through the middle terminal at Columbus Airport, which is Terminal B. And I see the same attire and baseball cap on this individual in regular security. And I go through TSA. So I get through a little quick. I got pre-check. So I go through a little quicker.
Ooh, Brian Hartline doesn't have the pre-check. Interesting.
I just wanted to flex a little bit.
How'd that make you feel?
Pretty good because he's a man and I'm not. And so if I can have one thing above him, that's fine. So, so because I got through security way faster, I have time to do a quick Google image search to confirm that the individual I'm looking at, I'm like looking for discernible facial feature characteristics on Google Image to make sure that the guy I'm now looking back at coming through security toward me is in fact Brian Hartline. And I've deduced that it is.
And the thing is, by the way, he's kind of generic looking and kind of not at the same time.
Sure.
Like Google him. If you saw him from any other angle that was not head on, it would be really easy for it to be any other guy. But as soon as you get a shot right at his face, you go, oh, that's definitely Brian Hartline.
Yeah. Well, and you know what you could have done is just shouted, "Hey, Brian!"
Or that.
And then he would have showed you where the nearest restroom is.
So TSA is giving him a bit of a hassle he has to do some extra steps. And I've now confirmed that who I'm looking at is Brian Hartline. And now I have the added pressure of knowing I have to talk to him because of what happened a week ago on the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do I do this in a way that's not like really geeky and creepery looking? So I wait until he gets himself all back together and all of his luggage back together. And this is the move. I let him walk past me and position myself just behind him and over his shoulder so that when I say, "Hey, Brian," he'll only turn if it is him. If it's not him, and again, I'm 99.7% sure that it is, he'll just keep walking down the terminal. So that I thought was a pretty smart move. And I said, "Hey, Brian." And he turns and he goes, "Yeah?" Like not pissed, just like a little like, yeah, like weird that somebody said something. To which I reply, "You are Brian, right?" Which is like, but I give it a little like, "You are Brian, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, what's up?" And I was like, "My name's Kory. It's really nice to meet you. Sorry to bother you. I just have to tell you a super quick story. Do you have 60 seconds? And he goes, "Sure, man. What is it?" Again, he's not being mean. I'm just like, a weird guy in an airport.
Oh, come on. Say it already.
Because he's now through security. So the first thing on his mind is I got to get to where I'm getting, or at least get my Starbucks before I board.
He's trying to get his coffee. He's got to take a good poop before he gets on the plane. We get it.
That's right.
So I said, my brother was in Tampa at a Hilton a week or so ago. He's at a hotel bar. He sees who he thinks is you sitting across the bar. He says, "Hey, Brian," as you're walking to presumably the restroom, and you never came back. So we had the funny story that you scared him, or that he scared you and you never came back. And we told it on our podcast. We tagged you on social media. And what are the odds that here I am now seeing you a week and a half later? I just had to tell you that story because I thought it was really funny. And he goes, "Yeah, I mean, I like to try and stay at Hilton's. I think I was in Tampa."
Oh, baloney.
I was like, wasn't the point of the story? But again, I know that you're throwing a lot at someone, right? And they're just trying to register why you've stopped them and who you are. And you've already told them half of the details that they've probably missed while they're trying to figure out why some stranger is stopping them. And so whatever. He goes, I go, "Yeah, I thought that was really crazy. And now here you are. So do you mind if they're not going to believe this, that I've now bumped into you. Do you mind if I just snap a quick picture?" So he very graciously agrees to take a picture. He smiles and everything. And I go, "Thanks a lot, man. Safe travels." Had I been thinking, I would have done a lot more of like, "Really appreciate what you're doing with our offense. And we love Ohio State," and like all the stuff he normally gets.
Yeah, he gets that all the time.
But I was trying to be quick and to the point, and it was an awkward interaction, but he smiled for the photo. I got the photo. So I go to Eddie George's Bar and Grill and I text you guys, "You're never going to believe." Seriously, what are the odds of that?
That's crazy.
Wild.
I'm going to be on the lookout for him now. I wouldn't have known what he looked like until now.
Dylan,
so I just
hop on my Facebook.
Say,
hop on my Facebook and pull up the picture while you.
I just want to say thank you for redeeming my "Hey, Brian" a little bit. And it's so funny because I just saw an interview with Pete Davidson is on Howard Stern. And Pete's telling a story about being with somebody who wants to go there. He's going to go hang out with Jack Nicholson and they're inviting Pete Davidson. And Pete Davidson is like, "I can't go with you while you're talking to Jack Nicholson about whatever it is." And I'm just sitting there like, "Hey, Jack." He's like, "I can't live in a world where Jack Nicholson hates me or thinks I'm an idiot. I can't." So thank you for being what Pete Davidson couldn't be. You redeemed my story. Brian Hartline can think you're the idiot.
Yes. I was going to say, I fear I made his perception of us as brothers worse
Yeah.
But now I look like the weirder one.
He
And
forgot about me. He'll remember you.
You're just you
second
just had the
story.
cool "Hey Brian." I had the whole "Do you mind if I tell you a quick story?"
Hey, Brian. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yes, I would be happy to pull up your Facebook and find the picture of you.
Oh,
And Brian
it's
Hartline.
on the-
What are the
it's on-
freaking odds?
It's a great plug for our From the Middle for the Middlers page, where we share a lot of this extra content. It's our version of what you'd get from like a Patreon or a paywall, but it's free. You just gotta like and follow and subscribe and all the things. And it was again, I was like vacillating. Do I say something? Do I not say something? And then I was like, I absolutely have this added pressure of having to, because of how crazy this occurrence is.
That's
Wild.
we need to come up with what my Brian Hartline story should end up being when I inevitably see him within the next couple of weeks.
So I'm on a podcast with these two idiot brothers.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously should keep the "Hey Brian" thing.
Yeah, you got to lead with that.
I've got to lead with that. I'm not sure about vacillating in front of him. That's probably against my religion. But I got
there we are, me and my buddy Brian.
Hey, Brian.
My good friend. Apparently now friend of the show. I think we can legitimately say that now.
Brian Hartline, friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Hey, Brian. I've got two funny stories. Do you have 120 seconds?
One of them is going to sound like a rerun, but I need to refresh your memory.
You might have even heard one of these before.
But apparently your memory of who you meet is like a goldfish. So you probably...
Well, I'm definitely tagging him on the social media post.
Yeah, I think I was at the Columbus airport once.
I'm definitely tagging him on the social media posts for this episode also. So he's going to be like, who's this? What are these orange graphics of people? What's this from the middle?
Wait a minute. I think I recognize those two.
This photo is great. It's like it's part gracious and part quiet desperation. He's just being so nice, and he's so desperately trying to get out of there.
He could be echoing your thumbs up in the picture, but he chose not to.
Yeah.
Okay, take it down.
There's a little bit of help me in his eyes.
I'm sure glad we're on the other side of TSA right now.
Charity.
He's thinking, if I don't make it home, will this be the last picture of me they find? Is this what my wife and kids will see last? Like the picture with the murderer.
He's gonna wake up from nightmares in the middle of his sleep where he just hears "Hey Brian."
Hey, Brian.
And look, you're a very type A, Brian. If you're listening to this, in no way, shape, or form are we making fun of you. We are making fun of ourselves. We love you. You've done great things at Ohio State.
Well, it's clear how much we adore.
You're great.
There's so much more I wanted to say to you.
As we all know, the offense hasn't been the problem recently.
So funny. So funny.
That's great.
Man, that was a fun. Where do we go from there?
I don't know.
So I can give you a lackluster story. Have you ever tried a thing thinking to yourself, this is going to be an awesome story? And then it's like, oh, come on. This could have been better.
All the time.
We had a situation. There's a local pizza establishment, a local chain called Flyers Pizza around us. And if you order online, you can get a Stromboli, and they have their normal, like, pre-made, pre-selected options for Strombolis, including one that is a mystery Stromboli. It's a little bit cheaper for what you get, so you're getting a deal. It says that they're going to put at least 4 toppings on it, and so it's cheaper than a normal 4-topping Stromboli, but it's called Joey's Choice. So, like, the house chef there, he puts together what he thinks might be an interesting Stromboli, and the only rules are he won't use black olives because enough people don't like those, and he's not going to put jalapeno peppers on it. Other than that, everything else is fair game. And I've ordered it before, and it's usually something relatively normal, just something I haven't done before. Like, here's a sausage and mushroom green pepper salami or something like that. And it's always good, but it's not like wowing me or anything like that. And just solid Stromboli. And so my family and I ordered a couple pizzas for ourselves from there. And then I wanted to get this Stromboli to share. And a lot of times when you order online, it has the special instructions area. And so I order the mystery Stromboli, and then in the special instructions, I put make it weird and sent it. And in my head, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so great. This is going to be so awesome. And even when I go to pick it up, the dude hands it to me. He's like, they made it a mystery. That much is for sure. And so now I'm like hyped up. Like, this is going to be a great story. And then I get it back and we open it up. And then even like when we take the styrofoam carton that has a Stromboli in it out of the bag, it has like a smiley face, only like the lips are wiggly to make it look like it's a disgusting kind of smiley face. And so I'm like, this is going to be crazy. And I'm also a little bit scared because like, I don't want to be giving like the human fluids, feeding that to my children right now. But we popped the thing open and I'm looking at it and I'll just tell you what it was. It was pineapple and chicken, like real chicken, pineapple, chicken, pepperoni was on it. And I forget. Oh, and cheddar cheese in addition to the normal mozzarella cheese. So that was it. It was weird, but it didn't. But the sauce that it came with, I could not detect what that sauce was at all. It was white. Usually Strombolis come with pizza sauce. This was some kind of white sauce that I would sniff and I couldn't tell what it was. And so I thought maybe that's it because it kind of tasted a little bit weird, a little bit off. And I'm like, maybe they took like some fryer grease and made a gravy out of it. Okay, maybe that's what the really weird thing is. Because the Stromboli itself tasted perfectly fine. Wasn't that weird other than I wouldn't put pineapple in a Stromboli. And so then I call them up. I'm like, guys, that was totally a weird Stromboli you made for the guy that said mystery. But I have one question. What was that sauce? So it's like, oh, that's just the white sauce that we put on our pizzas, on our white pizzas. I'm like, oh, come on. Come on.
I knew
you guys
that was
had an opportunity.
I knew that was going to be it because it's not uncommon for like chicken pineapple. Like if pineapple is going to go on a pizza, it's not uncommon it's on a white sauce. And so that's not surprising. But it is surprising that it tasted more unique than a typical white sauce. Like,
I guess maybe I've never tried white sauce by itself. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
I guess, but I'm curious as to what you thought was going to happen when you have to realize there's still a pizza place with pizza ingredients.
I was kind of hoping that they would find.
I mean, they've got brownies and cookies.
Okay.
On hand, right?
I was going to say, do you think they're going to?
My wife and I even we looked at the rest of their menu to try to decipher, like, because we both thought the same thing. Like, this isn't that weird, and so she pulled up their menu, and like, we would have been able to come up with something funny.
There's corn dogs in here. There's chicken nuggets,
cheddar ruffles. Yeah, I was like, I thought, okay, maybe he thinks they'll have like some peanut butter on hand and like throw that in there and do something weird. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And I'm also trying to figure out, the second thing I'm trying to figure out is like, what is their marketing plan with doing that? Just that they think people are up for a fun something different, or is this like like a oops all berries Captain Crunch thing where they're just like, no, we made too many of something or have too many ingredients. So this is a good way for us to off some ingredients.
That, you know what, that could very well be it. In my mind, I'm thinking like if I were running a pizza joint and I like had like my select things of toppings that I have like very well researched, and I'm like, this is such an awesome combination. Why doesn't anybody do this? I would get frustrated that nobody's doing it. And so like every time somebody ordered the mystery Stromboli, that's what I'm doing.
Or every time somebody orders a pizza and doesn't take it home, he scoops all the toppings and sauce and throws it into a thing. And then if he's short 4 toppings, he'll just pick 1 more or 2 more and throw them in with it. Yeah. That could be his thing. Just a way to salvage pizza toppings.
That could be. Okay. But what got me was like how excited the employees were to hand this thing to me. Like it was a thing. It was a thing to them that like, oh man, we did something naughty. We put pineapple in your Stromboli.
Okay.
It was like it was disproportionate.
It's clear. It's clear what you have to do next time. Add an ER to the end of your special instructions.
Get weirder.
I'll pay extra for you to go get some crazy stuff from Kroger.
There's a slice of prime rib. There's a soft taco.
There is an Indian market like that shares a parking lot with them. I'm sure they have all kinds of weird stuff.
Ooh, you could do a curry chicken Stromboli.
Oh yeah,
nice. That's fun.
Anyway, so I just told the story that really wasn't much of a story.
No, that was good. No, I'm excited to hear what you're going to do next time. I think you need to figure out a way to up it.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to take your advice and order a weirder one. Make it weirder.
Weirder.
With a capital ER.
It'll just have written on it, "Hey, Brian." That's really weird. You guys want to roll through some things we're streaming before we wind it down?
Right on. So in addition to beef, I have watched the first two, which makes me current, seasons of Schmigadoon on Apple TV. Have you guys heard of this?
I've watched it.
You've watched it? Have you talked about it yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I'm so excited to hear from both of you because that show, I've only seen the trailer, is right up my alley.
Yeah. What's his name?
Keegan
Michael Key. But he is. It's basically it's a musical, and they take lots of pot shots at musicals, and they're parodying sort of like particular themes of musicals per episode. If you're familiar with American Horror Story, it's similar to that in that the cast doesn't really change much. It's the same cast from year to year, from season to season, but their roles and the story and everything do change because one season you get the beginning and the end of that story. The next season, same cast, different parts, different setting, everything. You're going to get another beginning and end.
I'm just learning that's how American Horror Story is set up.
Yeah. American Horror Story is great too. I mean, it makes you realize the depth of some of the acting to see these characters. Like, you know, one year you're playing like the lead villain, the next year you're like the crying mother. But it's an interesting way to do it for that reason. But I think it's good and fun. I think it's funny. People like you show choir nerds would probably get a lot of behind the scenes enjoyment on it. Like, yeah, it really is just like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think some people would like it. Other people might watch half an episode and be like, yeah, it's not for me. So
would one have to be an appreciator of musicals or music to watch it? Like if you're not into that scene at all or don't even like the occasional musical?
I would think that you would have to have at least a baseline interest of musicals. They would have to, if you're the kind of person where musicals just annoy the crap out of you and you can't do it, I don't think you're going to be able to make your way through Schmigadoon. Even though they're making fun of musicals, it is still in and of itself a musical.
Yeah.
You'd have to be a really big fan of Keegan-Michael Key and not like musicals. I could maybe see being the only alternative. Like, you've watched him do enough skits on Key and Peele that you don't care. You just want to watch more of him. Otherwise, you do kind of have to like be into musicals, I think, a little bit, or at least tolerate them. It's absurd. It's fine to good somewhere in there. If you're into musicals, you'll think it's pretty good, and you'll find it worth watching. I don't know that I would ever like go back and rewatch the first couple seasons, but if they had a couple more to finish the show, sure, I'm gonna go watch the last couple seasons to finish it because it's interesting and different enough that it's enjoyable. And there's a lot of familiar faces in the show as you watch. So like, even if you don't know names, you're going to be like, oh, that guy, oh, that girl, she's in, he's in. I remember him from.
I mean, Martin Short is in it for like, he's got like the most bit part, but he's in both seasons.
Yeah. So I think, especially if you watch a lot of TV or a lot of different series, you'll recognize a lot of faces from things, which I always think is kind of fun, because then I do the quick IMDb search and go, oh, how do I know them? You know, I just watched them in something, and then I've got to look them up and figure out who it is. So yeah, Schmigadoon. It's a funny one.
That's what I got.
Watching anything?
I just watched. I'm always a Tom Hanks fan. I just watched A Man Called Otto on Netflix, and that was one. A couple things I talked to probably a month or two back about the Mr. Rogers movie that he did. That one and A Man Called Otto were a couple that I knew in the last couple of years that I'd really want to watch when they hit streaming. And if you like Tom Hanks, it'll be really easy to watch and enjoy this one. There is some heavier material because of the nature of the book that it's based on. And they call out a warning on that right away. So like you follow the warning or not. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's not really a comedy. It's really probably a drama with some light comedic moments. But I feel like Tom Hanks is at this place where he's done so much. You can just tell he just really wants to do stuff that's meaningful to him. Like the messages of the movie are very simple messages that he wants to tell or to retell. And so I feel like this is definitely one of those, like a story about not giving up and what family or new family can look like, or moving on in life, after hardship. Like you just get a sense that he just gets very like, yeah, this is a message that I want to put out in the world. And so I feel like that's what it is, with especially recently with Mr. Rogers in this one. So if you like Tom Hanks, it'll be easy to watch. If you're not in the mood for a drama with a little comedy, it's maybe flip it on another time. But I definitely think it's worth watching. It's a good movie.
All right. And my recommendation is a little stale. In addition to watching Jimmy DiResta's Netflix show Making Fun, some friends invited me to come and watch John Wick Chapter 4 in theaters. But I wasn't caught up. I had watched John Wick 1 for sure, and I think most of John Wick Chapter 2, but I hadn't watched 3 for sure. And so I said, yeah, sounds good. I'll meet you guys there. It was an 8:10 p.m. showing, and the movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. So I said, well, I guess I'll run downstairs and watch John Wick Chapter 3 real quick. Those are just fun, lots of gratuitous violence and fight scenes. They're just a fun romp. So I did a little deep dive on the John Wick train. I kind of watched it backwards. So I was like, I'll go watch 3, watched 4 in theaters, and it made me want to watch 1 and 2 again.
Yeah. I have to admit, I've never seen any of them. I don't know how I've missed them. It's one of those that I know people enjoy.
Yeah. It was like that for me too. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is kind of one of those low-key Hollywood sweethearts like Brendan Fraser. Everyone seems to like him. No one seems to have anything bad to say about him. So I feel like I should watch him just because he seems to be such a nice guy. And I just have missed him.
It's funny you mentioned his niceness. So just on my feed the other day is maybe 6, 7, 8-year-old kid meeting him at a convention. Got to be like a comic book convention because John Wick is, like graphic novel type. The kid says, do you mind if I do a drawing for you? And the little boy asks to draw Spider-Man for Keanu Reeves. And just the way that he interacts with this boy is so genuine and sweet and clearly not for the camera that it just makes you like him. And then I've watched some behind the scenes of like how he trained for these movies and how seriously he does take his roles, even though people question his acting chops and how he delivers lines of dialogue. And he kind of gets made fun of and meme-ized from time to time. how he takes the action and the fighting, and even like learning how to shoot, like, and move through a room tactically and do, like, he takes it so seriously that, and it shows in his fight scenes. I feel it would be a really fun little side trail for you to take to watch through those. They're very good.
I've seen a couple clips where he'll be being interviewed on some kind of talk show about projects he's done in the past. Several of them centered around co-stars of his who they're revealing co-stars that have had crushes on him in the past that have revealed that. And his face just always has this genuine look of, I can't believe it. Like, I would have had no, like, he just never, whether it's a facade or not, like, he never thought about him that way. He was never going to be rude or cross a line. Or I think one of them was Speed with Sandra Bullock. Yeah. And I think one of them was on Drew Barrymore's show. She admitted she had a crush on him. They were at some party and she hopped on the back of his motorcycle and they rode off into the California sunset one night or something. And, just these
he's such a nice guy. He's oblivious to the
totally oblivious. Yeah. Like, he's just being so nice or he's really oblivious. And so it's sweet because you can't help but watch it and go, oh, he's just that nice. He never thought of taking advantage of anybody. He never thought of, whatever. I think that's really sweet.
He's also he seems to be like just really humble and bashful. And even if he does believe it, even if he had thought it, I think part of that reaction is just it's weirding me out. Stop talking about it.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy him, Dillon.
Yeah, and one last thing that I'll be watching soon, as of the release of this episode, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man 3 is now on Disney Plus. So we'll have that to talk about soon. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is in theaters. So
I'm hearing glowing feedback about Guardians.
Yeah,
especially now as a collective trilogy. People saying like, I've read several times, albeit only a couple times, as good as the original Star Wars trilogy. Now that they have them collectively together, that feels like very high praise from any kind of
the
audience. But still,
high praise. I had to do it.
But still, especially from and this is, I think, even if it's just that they're really good, a really good trilogy. I'll be the first to admit, had no idea who these characters were when Iron Man came out. And everyone said Guardians of the Galaxy was going to flop. That was like a critic. And now they've made this excellent trilogy. This whole cast together with James Gunn. So bravo to the whole cast and James Gunn for putting together a really, really well-received set of MCU films. So it's very cool.
Chris Pratt he's turning a little bit into like the golden touch. Like everything that he touches sells. It just seems now the Marvel Universe is such that you could say that about any of those actors, because any of the end game ish, whatever, the Avengers films, like they all did well. And so any of those cast in there could claim that. But I mean, Jurassic Park, say what you want, but like Parks and Rec took off, I think, in large part because of him. Obviously, he's not Ron Swanson or Amy Poehler, but yeah, I don't know. I just see him. He's young, and in my mind, he's like growing to be like the next The Rock. Like maybe some different genres of movies, but I feel like he's going to be the one that like we see 8 times a year in something.
Well, and I'll admit that I was when I saw the first the new Mario movie trailer, and heard Mario's voice was just Chris Pratt's voice. I kind of went, why wouldn't they do a traditional Mario voice? And then you watch the movie, they explain why the voices are the way that they are. And you kind of at least I did. I kind of instantly accepted it and was fine with it. And now it's the freaking highest grossing animated film of all time. And so just another project that he's been in. And this ain't going to be the last Mario now. And they just locked in his voice for however many Mario movies, that they presumably want to make tied to this this first one. So he'll be busy for a while, even if it's just voice acting.
Picking up off the Super Mario thing. So our favorite Italian stand-up comedian, Sebastian Maniscalco, is the voice of Spike, Mario and Luigi's boss in that movie. And speaking of Sebastian, when I was at the theater for John Wick Chapter 4, the trailer for About My Father played. And I've seen Sebastian in a few things, big movies, where his acting was fine, but there are parts or certain lines of dialogue that feel a little cringy because that's not his primary skill set. But I have to say, the About My Father trailer, like the parts that they happen to include in the trailer are Sebastian doing his extremely physical comedy stuff, and the lines are delivered very well. And Robert De Niro plays a caricature, exaggerated version of Sebastian's actual dad. And there's some pretty funny stuff in there from Sebastian's old bits. So it comes out Memorial Day, I believe. So I'm excited to hear how that does in theaters. Because it looked, I was pleasantly surprised how good and funny it looked from the trailer. So if you haven't yet, go find that somewhere. And that's all I got.
All I got.
Yep, me too. I did have one quick thought, which was Dillon had mentioned, and he had mentioned the concept of film giving you a warning that this is going to be like a little bit too much to handle for some people. Discretion is advised or whatever. And I know in some parts they make that so that parents can make judgments for their kids, but there's a part of me that also wonders, is there any adult going in to watch something and the warning comes up and they think to themselves, yeah, I probably shouldn't, and then actually turns the channel and doesn't watch it? Does that actually happen? Is that reality for anybody?
I would probably say normally no. But if there was anybody like me, I was kind of walking into this Tom Hanks movie thinking, all I know, I had no idea what the book was. All I know from the commercials, grumpy Tom Hanks, probably funny. He has some neighbors that annoy him, funny movie. I had no idea the heavy thematic recurring thing was going to be a part of that at all. So like, probably not normally, maybe for this one, actually. I don't know. Like, I'll leave that up to people to chime in.
Maybe they're not specific enough. And if they were specific enough, then they would give away plot points. Because you hear people say, like, if the dog dies, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
You hear people say that. And so, but they can't go in the beginning of the movie, hey, the dog dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dillon, because you actually watched it.
No, I don't know that I have another thought. This one is not even remote. I mean, if you see a dog in an action movie, you can infer that something might happen to the dog. There was nothing that I saw in the commercial that led me to believe some of the stuff that was going to be in it was in it.
Yeah. And it's not a very serious question.
No, well, I think it's a good question because, like I said, my answer is actually typically I agree with you, and I don't think anyone's ever actually leaving the theater because of that. Although this time, this might be the one time I've ever seen one of those and thought, oh, I had no idea this. Kind of like Deadpool. Maybe that was one other example. Parents just saw a Marvel movie. It's not exactly the same because it's not like they would have thrown up an R rating before. There might have been some parents that went, whoa, I had no idea this was an R-rated thing. We're not going to sit here and watch this.
Because it sort of breaks with the expectation. And Kendall, I know your question was
it got taken more seriously than I intended.
But no, it's a good point because just like you watch 12 Marvel movies in a row and then Deadpool will shock some people because they're like, oh, dang. And you can just say without giving away any plot points, Dillon, that this one includes some what I heard as lingering scenes of suicide related material. And so maybe the litmus test for that is I actually had some people on my Facebook page go out of their way to say, hey, for those of you expecting a fun and endearing Tom Hanks movie, I was actually triggered by some stuff that I saw because I have family members that took their own life or whatever. So yes, I understand the question was more lighthearted, but because you're used to seeing Tom Hanks in a certain type of thing, if you're going to the theater thinking that and lost a family member to that, you'd be like, oh, dang, I wasn't expecting that here.
Well, and I think too, if it suicide specifically, so if that's called out and they use the word, I think that makes sense. And because there are people who legitimately deal with suicide and putting them in front of an emotional atmosphere where suicide is at the center of it is not a good idea.
Yeah, and it's repeatedly brought up throughout the film, so it's not like a one-off scene where like they fade into the distance and then that theme is gone. Like, it's not like the beginning of the Castaway. It's like if you've ever lost a loved one that was a marker on a volleyball, you might not want to sit through this film. Like that's not a thing.
I think the suicide one is there more for the people who are dealing with suicidal thoughts, less for the people who know somebody and like a memory might get triggered. I think it's more for like the personal safety of people who deal with mental health.
Yeah. That's come up in some of the dramas on even the major networks. They'll do that thing at the end, like whatever the main topic. If you know somebody dealing with gambling, drugs, whatever, please call this number. So that's kind of how it felt watching.
Yeah. Good to know. Well, it's been fun catching up with you guys, and I always love our chats. So thanks for bringing joy and fun and some recommendations and some silly stories and whatnots. And hey, we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right.
Hey, Brian.